Story time: How me and my sister almost got kidnapped. This story is by Galaxy Vibes. Thank you for sharing your story. Okay, so one day I was on my mum's work phone watching TikToks and I didn't have my phone ringer on. So I looked at my phone and I realized there were 2 notifications, and one was from my best friend and the other one was from a random number. Before I could see what the number was, I went and unlocked my phone, but then my phone immediately called them back. I got really startled that it said connecting, so I hung up quickly before they could answer the phone. Then they called me back 2 more times. Instead of blocking the number, I decided to tell my sis. She told me I should block them. There was a new update on my phone and I wasn't sure how to block them. It was confusing, so I got some inappropriate messages that I won't disclose to you, but it was really weird, and then I never heard from them again.
Storytime about why my mom kicked me out when I was 16. So a little background information. This had all started as soon as my dad left my mom and I. I was like 13 around the time. Well, ever since then, my mom would have different guys in and out of the house all the time. Like, we were lucky if a month went by and she was still with the same dude. Which, I mean, I kinda get it because my dad did leave us for a woman that he had started another family with. But at the same time, it was just a whole mess. Anyway, so she had got with this new guy, and we're gonna call him Tyler. And by the way, the dudes that she would date, they would literally live at our house. Anyway, so a week after he moved in, I started getting really close to him, which usually never happens. Usually I would try to keep my distance because I knew how wrong it was of her having all these different guys in the house when I'm only 16. Anyways, every time that my mom would go to work, he would invite me to go see a movie, and he would just be really flirty with me. And he was only 6 years older than me, and my mom was 32. You do the math. Part 2 about why my mom kicked me out when I was 16. So like I said, the guy was being super flirty with me, inviting me to the movies when my mom wasn't home and all that stuff. Well, then it led to more than just that. By the way, this guy did not have a job, so he was home with me 24/7. And I was doing online school. So we were in the house by ourselves, 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. Anyways, like I said, it led to more, and we started doing the nasty and stuff. Ew, just, yeah. Well, the one day after we got done doing the nasty in my mom's room, we had fell asleep. And yes, we did not have clothes on. Well, at 2 in the morning, I hear someone pounding on the bedroom door, and my mom worked night shifts. So we get up, he hurries up and gets dressed and tells me to hide under the bed. And he opens the door, and it's my mom's sister. My sister literally lived in the apartment next door. And she was like, oh yeah, neither of you were answering the phone, so she wanted me to check on you guys. Like, where's Elena? And I'm still under the bed naked. Part 3 about why my mom kicked me out when I was 16. So like I said, I'm laying under the bed, no clothes on. She asks where I am. And he's like, oh, she should be in her room. So he goes looking for me everywhere with her. And he's like, oh, well, maybe she's outside on the patio. And I don't know why the hell my mom's sister had a key to our apartment anyways. But she's still looking for me in the apartment, and she looks under the fucking bed. And at first she's like, oh my god, what did he do to you? And I'm trying to tell her nothing, like I made that decision on my own. So she calls my mom right away. My mom comes home. She's screaming at me, and she kicks me out. So I go to my grandma's house, and I told my grandma what happened. And my grandma calls her, and she's like, it's not her fault that you gave her daddy issues. And I'm like, bruh, what the fuck? Child, anyways. So then she goes on Facebook and starts posting about how I'm a whore and how, like, it isn't her boyfriend's fault at all. Storytime about one of the most embarrassing things that has ever happened to me in high school. So a little background information. I was in my freshman year of high school. Well, spring break was coming up. Well, the whole year, my friend and I hadn't been to one single party. So we decided that we wanted to try and go to a party every single day of spring break, which was about to be super difficult because we had to worry about my strict-ass parents and my neighbors. A little background info on my neighbor. My neighbor is this girl who's in my same grade, and she literally hates my guts. I don't know why, but literally anything that I do, she'll go and she'll tell her mom, and then her mom will tell my mom. Because my mom and her mom are best friends. But before we know it, Saturday comes around, and we go back to school on Monday. We did not make it to one single party. Well, later that night, we found out that one of our friends was throwing one. So around 11 o'clock, everybody's sleeping, and I walk out my back door, hop over my fence, and I start heading towards the road where my friend was going to be parked. You know, who do I see sitting outside on their porch reading a book? My neighbor. Part 2 about the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to me in high school. So like I said, the I hate is sitting out on her porch reading a book at 11 o'clock at night. So I crouched down so she couldn't see me. I run to the car, and my friend and I finally go to the party. Well, we get to that party and it's really boring, so we decided to go to a different one. And the party that we were about to go through was being thrown by the kid that I really liked. So I start hanging out with him when we get there. I'm drinking a lot, having so much fun, and I really have to go to the bathroom. And I didn't know where anything was at all, so I grabbed my friend and we're looking around everywhere for the bathroom. Because when I asked him, he was super drunk and really couldn't explain to me where the bathroom was. So we were pretty much left to fend for ourselves. But we ended up not being able to find a bathroom, and this is where I had to improvise. So my friend and I go to the laundry room, and we see the litter box in there for the cat. Well, at this point, I was desperate, so I just went in the litter box. Well, 30 minutes later, the cops show up to the party. And everybody had to hurry up and leave because we did not want to get underages. Part 3 about the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to me in high school. So like I said, I went in the litter box and then the cops showed up. We all ran because we didn't want to get underages. I was able to sneak back into my house without anybody knowing. But when I get to school on Monday, everybody's talking about the party. And apparently the kid that I liked who threw the party, his parents didn't know that he threw one at all. And this was like during first period. So I went to text him and ask him if he was grounded because we were supposed to hang out the next day. And I realized that I am blocked. So I'm thinking, what the fuck, why does he have me blocked? So I told my friend that he blocked me, and she goes, it's probably because he saw what you did in the laundry room. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, there's no fucking way that he knows. Because there was a door that led to the outside in the laundry room, there were cameras in there. So everybody saw this video of me. People were posting it on their Finstas, posting it on their Snapchat stories. It was so embarrassing. Not to mention the bitch that I hate who lives next door showed my parents the fucking video, and I was grounded for 4 months.
My future mother-in-law is the absolute worst person I've ever met in my life. I'm 30 years old and my boyfriend is 31, and we've been together for 8 months. He's the sweetest and most caring man I've ever met in my life, but the biggest surprise is when I met his mother. I'm a natural redhead, so when we sat down for dinner, she asked me if my parents had the same color hair. And then she proceeds to ask me, does the carpet match the drapes? I looked over to my boyfriend, who seemed equally as shocked, but he didn't say anything. And when I didn't respond back, she said, don't worry, I'll ask my son about it later. She then went on to attack my appearance and said my hair was too curly and I really needed to learn how to run a brush through my hair and think about my appearance more when I'm out with her son. And when I lost my appetite, she told me it was a good thing that I'm watching what I eat because it would be a shame if I got any bigger. This was my first meeting with this woman, and as soon as I got into my car, I burst into tears until I got home. I told my boyfriend I needed some time. He went into apology overload, and this started by sending me flowers to my office every day and leaving me messages. He said he spoke with his mom and promised this would never happen again. With this reassurance, I decided to give it another chance. 2 weeks later, he invited me to come to a family birthday party. I met more of his family and they were amazing people. His mother was avoiding me and I had no problem with that. I went to grab something out of my purse when I noticed it was missing. I went and asked my boyfriend and he quickly began to help me look for it. He got this strange look on his face and he quickly went upstairs where I heard yelling and screaming. He came back down with my purse in hand. Turns out his mom took my purse so that she could take my license to run a background check on me. I thought it would be best to avoid all family functions until he insisted I come to a family reunion. I sat at a table with his sister and his cousins, and his mom sat down as well. One of his cousins looked like my 12-year-old niece, and I showed her a picture, and that's when his mom began to laugh. She told me she hopes that if me and her son ever have children that they don't look like my niece. And that's when I blew up on her like a volcano. She tried to play the victim and said I was a horrible woman. When my boyfriend decided it was time for us to leave and she saw something in his hand, she looked at me dead in the eyes and said, "You will never have this ring, you little bitch," and lunged for my boyfriend's hand and grabbed the small box and threw it down the storm drain. Turns out he was planning on proposing and got the heirloom from his grandma at the party. My fiancé went no contact with his mom, and that only lasted about a week before she came banging on our door trying to apologize. When I let her in, that's when all hell broke loose because she saw our Christmas tree. She began screaming that I was trying to convert her son to Christianity and that I was just a little whore trying to ruin her family. She started running towards my Christmas tree and began tearing off every ornament and throwing them and leaving them smashed on the floor. I have many childhood and family ornaments on my tree that were very precious to me that were all smashed during her rampage. I had to grab her and physically drag her away, and she was punching me several times and biting my hand. I had to call the cops. She told the police I was an intruder in her son's apartment and I attacked her. After my fiancé came home and he was siding with me, that threw her into another rampage. When the police asked if I wanted to press charges, I looked at my fiancé and he was conflicted. I had to do what made me feel safe, so I decided to press charges. She was taken to the hospital and then arrested upon her release. Him and the rest of his family want me to drop the charges against his mom since I have a restraining order. He said he'll stand by me and my decision, but doesn't want to see his mother go to prison. I'm so confused and conflicted on what to do.
This is a story of the time that one of my friends started dating my ex right after we broke up. Just a backstory, me and this girl were really close friends on and off since she was a freshman and I was a sophomore. And this whole entire story time happened when I was a junior. We're gonna call her Mindy because she gives me Mindy vibes. So the day after I found out my ex cheated on me, I had work the next day. I worked in a shoe store. And my whole shift I was really sad, but I was holding back my tears. And then Mindy walks in, sees that I'm upset, and she's like, "What's going on? What happened?" So then I start crying and I asked my manager if I can go on my break. So I go on my break, I go with her to the food court and I tell her everything that happened. And she was comforting me, telling me everything's gonna be okay. And then she decided to tell me new information that I never knew. That a month before that, she was hanging out with one of her other girlfriends and my ex decided to walk all the way from his house to their house just to hang out with them secretly. So that was just great news. And then a week goes by and all of a sudden I see them walking together in the hallway. And I keep hearing from a bunch of people that they're talking. So then I message Mindy and I'm like, "Hey, can you just tell me as a friend, like, are you talking to him?" Story of the time my friend started dating my ex right after we broke up. Part 2. So I messaged her on Snapchat and asked her if they were talking. And right off the bat, she was mad nice. She was like, "I would never do that to you. That's so messed up, Mia. Like, who have you heard this from? That's so messed up." And obviously I was a little skeptical, so I was being kind of like rude. And I was like, "I don't know why you won't just tell me the truth." So then I blocked her because I got mad. So I messaged her this in school. And not even the next day, the next period, I walk past them in the hallway, mind you, in the same spot that me and him would meet up. And she looks at me in the eyes and then gives him a kiss. Obviously, this whole breakup was really new and I was like really upset about it. So this just, put the cherry on top. But me being a little naive 16-year-old, I cried and then I watched them date for a few weeks. Then I hear from one of me and my ex's mutual guy friends that she was never as good as me and that he couldn't get his mind off me. So then, a few weeks later they break up. And then me and him start dating again.
Story time on how my brother and I got caught, doing the dirty. And also we are married now. So before we start, I just wanted to say, we don't have the same dad, we just have the same mom. And we honestly don't see anything wrong about it. But let's start. So like I said, he's only my half brother. And we were really, really close all the time. He's my older brother. And he was always very protective. We didn't really fall in love until 3 years ago. And also we are from Europe. So the day we got caught, doing the dirty, we were home alone. And like I said, we were always close. So that day we were just hanging out, watching a movie on the couch, and he started to play around, flicking my ear, and then he pulled my hair, and we just started playing around. And I accidentally tripped, and my nose was bleeding. He was really scared. So he said, "Let's go take care of that before our parents get home." Okay, so this is part 2 on how my brother and I got caught, doing the dirty. So like I said, he said, "Let's go take care of that before our parents get home," because he was really, really scared. So we went up to the bathroom and, he was taking care of me. And all of a sudden, he kisses me. And yes, I kissed him back because I always had a little crush on him. But I didn't think it would get to that point. So we started kissing and then it started getting really hot. And yes, we did it like twice. But the second time my parents got home, we didn't hear them, but they did hear us. And my mom walked in and saw me butt naked on top of my brother. Long story short, he got sent away with his dad. Our parents were so upset and they couldn't even look at me. We got back in touch and we confessed our love for each other. We got married about 1.5 years ago. We moved to the United States to be away from our family. We live in Florida, ready to start our own family. So I got pregnant by my coworker's husband. So I guess story time. So we both worked at an adult store, but they were 2 stores side by side. Her store closed at 10, mine at midnight. And her husband would come over to my store while he waited for her to close up. And we would just chat. And that's it. So one night I messaged him just to ask him something about her birthday that was coming up. And one thing led to another. And I sent him a naughty picture. And we started messaging often. One thing led to another. We ended up hooking up. We would hook up while she was at work. I even went home sick once, so she would have to cover for me, just so I could be with him. He had never cheated, and I had never done something like this. But we just had a spark. The sex turned into love.
I thought I couldn't have babies, so we never used protection. This went on for a year, and she started noticing. Okay, so this is part 2 on how I got pregnant by my coworker's husband. So like I said, she started noticing that him and I had an attraction, so she started saying how it was so cute that him and I were close like brother and sister. Her and I got close, and she would always want me to go over for dinner. And they would also take me shopping. It was kind of weird, but I got to spend time with him. It was a secret, but one night I was drunk and I told a close friend. The following year, that close friend messaged my coworker on her birthday and tells her everything. At first, she didn't believe it, and we were okay for a little while, but one night she messaged me and told me she knew everything. He must have gave in and told her, even though we agreed we would never admit to it. A month later, I found out I was pregnant. I told him, and long story short, they moved because he got deployed, and she changed all their information. And now I have a 3-year-old he's never seen.